Dennis Amachree, who is a security expert. And I think the first question, I'm sure you were following Ahmadine's report, to share with us your thoughts on that report and also your general thoughts regarding the first day of the protest.
Thank you very much for having me. You see, we have a different scenario when we compare it to the EndSARS or other protests that have happened in Nigeria. But the unique of this particular protest is the one that I look from the prism of security, that the police have done very well, but at the same time, they've done very badly when it comes to deployment of their people. You know, the police is supposed to escort, or should I say guide, the protesters. But what we see here is them congregating in a particular place and saying that don't go this way or don't go this way, be in the stadium, don't be in the stadium. And, you know, later tear gases start flying around. I don't think that's the best method to do it. You know, they would have taken charge, allowed the initiative to remain with them, you know, by leading the procession or whatever to wherever they want to go. But, you know, even your reporter is saying that there were a group of people that were extorting money from people. If the police was leading the procession, you know, they would have been there with them. Yeah. But as long as they are not there with them, they are concentrating on a particular area, either Eagle Square or at the stadium, then other groups, you know, you see at what happened in Kano. People were waiting for this to happen so that they can go ahead and, you know, loot or steal or whatever they want to do. So I think there are lessons to be learned. And I think the police are going to adjust their operational order.
Yeah, but Mr. Amachree, we've been waiting for them to adjust this operational order for decades. This is no different from any other protest that we've seen in Nigeria. The only thing that varies is the casualty figures. But we've had the same conversations multiple times. I remember I spoke with you during the EndSARS protest multiple times, and it's pretty much the same approach that they have. So would you say that it is mostly because of the inefficiency of the police that always makes them resort to firing tear gas? Because they're either poorly trained or they don't have the resources to actually manage a protesting crowd. And so they eventually just resort to firing tear gas and maybe even live ammunition. Or is it just complete disregard, you know, for protesters?
Yes, well, I would say that things have changed because I didn't hear much about live bullets being used yesterday. Although somebody said that some people died. Did they die from choking from the tear gas, or they were actually shot with live bullets? These are areas that we will find out later. But you see, the police itself have to update their crowd control mechanism or their crowd control system. You know, in fact, before we get to tear gas, that means we've gone to a level where there is almost a riot going to happen. Then you throw tear gas to make sure that, you know, people disperse. Water cannons can be used. Other kinds of crowd control tools can be used. You know, and please, I think majorly is this system where the police is still having this idea about them and us. You know, there should be no them and us here. These are Nigerians, and these are people that you are, you know, the Constitution has said that take care of them, and then you should take care of them. You know, there are no us and them, you know.
Just for clarity's sake, you know, and this is, you know, what the newspapers across the country are reporting, is between 14 to 17 people that, you know, have been declared, you know, dead from the protest yesterday. Okay. And all these reports, you know, say, just like on the Punch, one person was shot dead in Abuja and Kano, 2 killed in Jigawa, 6 others reportedly gunned down by security forces in Niger, while 4 died in Borno and 3 in Kaduna. You know, but so there's almost no, doubting, and of course, maybe investigations still need to be carried out, that these people were shot by security agencies and security forces, which made me, of course, put the question that, or frame the question that way, in the start.
Yeah, thank you very much for that statistics. I'm really surprised. In fact, I might not be surprised if it actually happened, because our police have not learned to not use live bullets. They're always resorting to live bullets, and there is no need for that. The Inspector General was very clear, about controlling the protesters and all the rest. And why give them live bullets? It is what they were issued that they are using. Rubber bullets are there for crowd control. Why not use rubber bullets? Why not use water cannons? Why not use, even tear gas as a last resort? Because what you are doing is crowd control. It is not a war. Let's go and deal with them or decimate them. You want to control them. It's just like cattle, watch farmers. If they have a whole bunch of cattle, one small 14-year-old boy with just a stick, knows how to control them and lead them to where he wants them to go. And that's the mechanism, that's a system that we should learn to do, instead of using live bullets on Nigerians.
All right, we can see videos that are showing on the screen. This is live footage of the protest happening in different parts of the country. This is currently in Lagos. Maybe we can give it a bit of audio volume to hear what is being said in Lagos, Nigeria.
There is no money to build refinery.
Okay, we seem to be struggling with the audio. Okay.
Yeah.
But I can see there that there's conversation about the minimum wage.
This same amount will build more than 15 refineries in Nigeria.
All right. The placard being carried there says something in the line of place public office holders on minimum wage. And we've seen that's been replicated in a number of other protesters who have carried the placard. We'll come back to talk more about the possibility of that. And more importantly, this conversation is focused on the role of the police in protecting the protesters, including the anti-protesters. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We're still looking at the protest and the results and the expressions it's taken in different parts of the state and the country. And we're joined by security expert Dennis Amachree. Thank you very much for staying with us, Mr. Amachree. Let's talk about the role that the security agencies have in protecting the lives of the protesters as well as the anti-protesters. A particular section they had quoted provided that where citizens had communicated the place or the address of protest, that the responsibility lies on the police to ensure that that is being, guaranteed, that their security and safety is being guaranteed. But what the police in some measure have interpreted this to be is that they insist that protesters must share their details. Protesters must share the name of the protest organizers, the venue that they intend to use for protests. In fact, as you must have seen in Abuja, they have gone ahead to get an ex parte injunction ensuring that protesters would be limited to the National Stadium in Abuja. So talk about this requirement, and what you think that section means, and then the responsibility that lies on the police, whether or not these people have indicated this, have followed through with these guidelines.
Okay, thank you very much for that. First of all, people are free to, protest. In fact, this particular protest has been made very popular by government because, when the rumors start coming around about a protest coming up between 1st and 10th of August, the government was very busy. There was an engagement with local traditional rulers, with ministers and all the rest, But even the engagement, that is good. When you want to counter protests, is good. But I don't think it seeped right down because the governors, only APC governors were addressed. And then, of course, the PDP or other state party governors were not invited to Abuja. I think they should have invited everybody because this is a national problem and they would have addressed it. And then when these guys go back, they should also have called all the local government chairmen in their state, talk to them, sit down the whole thing. Now, I don't know the objective of government. Is it to stop the protest or to make the people aware of, what they are doing? Because, you see, there are two things about this protest. The negative side is where you have people coming out and then, of course, turning the protest into riots. But again, protests can be very positive. Even government can gain from protests because that's the way they can get positive feedback on what they are doing. It's government of the people, by the people, for the people. So the people, this is one area that the people can come out and tell you that, hey, what you're doing is wrong and this is what we want you to do, and then of course government will adjust accordingly. Yep. So it's not that protests are bad. And that's why I also blame, government in a situation where you have to now get together, no protesters, this is the first time we're getting that, no protesters, organized with T-shirts and all the rest and placards and everything. It makes nonsense of the whole idea. See, it even emphasized that them and us attitude, it's one country, one people, and we should be dealing it with that way.
Mr. Amachree, just to, now you've mentioned this, I just thought to ask, has this ever been, you're a former assistant director at the DSS, so I believe you should know, has this ever been a tactic of de-escalating or quelling a protest, which is the setting up of counter-protest, the no protest, the counter-protest we've seen in the past? Has this ever been a tactic of either the DSS or the NSA in the past?
It has never been a tactics of the NSA or the DSS or even the police. If you see any counter-protest, I've been in the service, I stayed there and retired, and what I have discovered is that politicians, when the protests get to a particular level, politicians will inject, certain people into the protests and scatter the whole thing. I think that's the objective. Scatter everything. Then police will come and disperse everybody go home. But we're in a democracy now. The military can do that very, very well. But we're in a democracy now whereby we should also look at fundamental human rights, we look at equal justice, freedom of speech, and all those kind of stuff. And to execute those kind of things, then you really need to engage. You need to talk to people, and then, of course, considering their rights too. The military, of course, I'm happy that this time they were not very active because during military regimes, they come very active and they are the ones that, in fact, protesters are very scared of, All right. But this time, they pull back and watch,
Yeah.
So
all
these
right,
are the different
hold on.
levels.
Yeah, I'll pick up from this same point that you've just made in a bit, but I want us to speak with our correspondent who's here in Lagos. Bernard Akede, who's at Lekki Tollgate, I believe. Bernard, can you hear us? Bernard, good morning. Can you hear us?
Good morning.
All right, great. Confirm where you are and you know what the situation is over there.
I can hear you clearly. Good morning. All right. I'm currently in Ojota, which pretty much is the epicenter of this, nationwide protest that commenced yesterday. And what you're looking at now, if you have clear visuals, is the second, would I say, a leader of the protest, or the second speaker for the protesters this morning. Now, one of the speakers of the protest this morning, Comrade Akinkum is what he calls himself, and that's him there in the green shirt, still conversing with the police. Now, they were trying to have an agreement with the police here this morning as to how the protest will take place, in ways that it will not disrupt activities of passengers or of Nigerians, basically. Now, remember that it is not a public holiday. Remember that there is no curfew. Remember that there's no restriction of movement. So people are still expected to go about their daily duties. However, if the protest gets wider than this, it will be a challenge for people to move. So I guess the police is trying to see how they can ensure that this particular road on Ojota, which usually will be a very busy road on a Friday, on a working day, to ensure that the road is clear. Now, one of the agreements they reached was that all protesters will be on the curb here and not on the road, so that they'll be able to move freely. We, members of the press, are trying to see how we can reach an agreement with the police to allow us to take part of the road, so at least we can get shots of the people on the curb to the left and on the curb to the right. Now, to my right here, you can see the curb has been completely taken over by security operatives. More than what here yesterday, I believe. All the way from the left, and you'll see it very soon. We'll try and pan all through. Right all the way from there down, all onto the other side. In numbers that I can't exactly count. It's a combination of the Civil Defense Corps, Federal Road Safety, Lagos Traffic Management Authority, that's LASMA, and of course riot police, all adorned in riot gear.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And that's how it's been all morning this morning. But it still hasn't deterred the protesters from chanting songs of victory and songs of protest and songs of solidarity all through this morning since when we got here.
All right.
We don't know how today is going to be, but it's clear that the police is doing all they can to ensure that today doesn't get as rowdy as yesterday.
All right, Bernard, we'll come back to you. We're having a bit of issue with your picture, so we hope that by the time we touch base with you again, we'll have a much clearer picture. But let's quickly head over to Delta State. We have our correspondent in Delta State, Austin Azu. Good morning, Austin. Where in Delta State are you, and what is the situation like?
Austin, can you hear us?
Currently, we are at Interbar roundabout, one of their takeoff points. Yes, I can hear you. One of the takeoff points here in Asaba. Beside me, you can see the trucks of security personnel. Behind, you can see the trucks of the Nigerian soldiers. You can see the presence of the police. And of course, you can equally see the presence of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense and the DSS as well. At my left-hand side, you can see a low protester standing by, probably waiting for some of their colleagues to come together so that they can begin the takeoff from this particular spot here at Interbar. But however, what is so special about today is that it seems like business have started opening already, because most of the vehicular movement we are seeing did not take place yesterday. Yesterday, it was very kind of low-key. However, we expected that from now to 12 noon, more of these protesters may likely come out to begin the day 2 procession. But however, if they don't come out, it seems the day 2 of the protest may likely going to be like a low-key, unlike what we have yesterday.
All right. We'll have you there to continue to monitor things as they
Progress.
see how things progress this morning. And if things change, we'd love to have you share with us. Thanks very much, Austin, for joining us and for your time this morning. All right. Let's go back to the former Assistant Director of the DSS, Dennis Amachree. Mr. Amachree, before we have you, before we let you go, you mentioned something just now, which is that in previous protests, we see that politicians bring or facilitate the emergence of either counter-protests or thugs to scuttle those protests. I'm sure you remember saying that.
Definitely.
So I want to know, I mean, so you must know this, you know, because, of course, that's what the DSS does. It's intelligence gathering. And so can you confirm that the DSS is aware of whoever it is that may have facilitated the emergence of thugs into the NSAS protest in 2020?
The DSS is not all-knowing or all-present, or, you know, we don't sit down in a war room, you know, to say, okay, do this, or this is going to happen. You know, that's not how it works. Okay, like I told you, the DSS itself is an intelligence agency. They go out and collect information, and then, of course, that information is processed to produce what we call intelligence, you know, and that intelligence is fed back to politicians like the president or head of state, or governors or military administrator, or whoever is needing that particular intelligence. And now, that is where their job stops. They can decide to use it or not use it, you know, for many reasons. You know, we can tell them, oh, see, there is something going on, and then, of course, the president or the president's relation is involved.
Yeah.
He can decide not to even
do
anything.
But what is clear is that they are aware that some of these thugs that invade the protest and eventually scuttle the protest or create violence are brought in by politicians. That one is a clear fact.
They are not aware until it happens. You know, for instance, I can tell you during NSAS, you know, we found out that there were some people that were entering into a bus around the Alausa area, who were entering into the bus, who are not part of the real protesters, and they were carrying all kinds of, you know, batons and machetes and stuff like that. And then, of course, they got into the vehicle, which was a Lagos State government vehicle, and that vehicle took them somewhere else. You know, now, at the end of the day, you know, investigations will usually come up, and the DSS will investigate. And when they investigate, they discovered, you know, who these people are, or who sent them, or where they're coming from. So it is not that they are aware and they allowed it to happen, or, you know, they suggested it, you know. No, I don't think that is their role in society.
All right, Mr. Amachree, thank you for your time with us this morning. We look forward to having you again. As we head out of this conversation, we still will proceed with further conversations about the protest.